this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this bracelet. Let me get you really close here so you can see the units because they are very pretty. So you can see what they look like. This is using 8x4 Bicone crystals and 4mm rounds and of course some seed beads. Now this is tutorial number 5 in the treasure box series. We're going to be using the 8x4 bicones and the 4mm frosted beads if you want to do it exactly in this color scheme. Now, if you have the box. If you do not, however, you can use any colors you want and any 4mm round beads you want, any seed beads you want, as long as they're the right sizes, of course. Now, I will be having more of these available on my website real soon. Right now, I only have these two colors available, Opal Light and Champagne, but they will be available. So if you want to make this bracelet, you can do that. You don't have to have the treasure box. Just want to make sure you know that. So in this particular video, if you have the treasure box, you're going to follow exactly what I do using your 4mm round frosted beads and your 8x4 magic blue bicones. However, I'm going to use a different color scheme just because I can and because I already made one in this color scheme, but it's exactly the same pattern. So use the beads in your box if you have it. We're going to be using 4mm round glass pearls in this one. You can use anything 4mm round. You can probably even get away with a 4x3 rondelle if you want to make this really crystally and sparkly. Then I'm going to be using the champagne color with kind of a golden electroplating on it. And that's what I will have available in the store also right now. And like I said, there will be more. But I'm going to be using the 8x4 bicone in this golden topaz. Or golden champagne, I think is what it's called. And then 8O seed beads and 11O seed beads. These are both Toho galvanized permanent finish aluminum, and those are also available in my store if you don't have any and you want some. Then we'll be using lobster claw clasp, and I'm going to be using a closed jump ring. Now if you have the box, you can use the jump rings that came in there, just close them very tightly and use the bigger one. We'll be using a size 10 beading needle, or you can use a 12. I'm going to be using 10-pound Nanofil. You can also use 8-pound Nanofil. You can also use 6 or 8-pound Fireline. And let's go ahead and get started. First, put onto your needle a full wingspan of thread, which is when you put your arms out like you're going to fly away. Put them out to your sides. And measure from your fingertips of your first arm, the length of that first arm across your chest, the length of the second arm to the fingertips. That is a wingspan. Put one of those on and we'll get started. Know that you may have to extend your Fireline or Nanofil during this process, and I will post a video in the description box beneath the video player to show you how to do that. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, to start this project, we're going to make a stabilizing unit on the end and put the clasping on. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up a 4mm round bead, whatever you're using, and an 8O. And then a 4mm round bead and an 11O. A 4mm round, an 8O, a 4mm round, and an 11O. And I'll show you this. I know you can't see what I'm doing. So this is what I have. I have a 4mm round, 8O, 4mm round, 11O. 4mm round, 8O, 4mm round, 11O. Then we're just going to take these beads to the end of our thread. You don't have to leave a really long tail, but you should leave enough to tie a knot. So just bring it down to the end. And then, once you have them to the end and you've left just a few inches of a tail, you're going to just bring your working thread over the top of the tail and go into the first couple beads that you put on the thread. So from the tail side, I'm going through a 4mm round and an 8O. And then I'm just going to pull my thread through. Just like that. And that's what you should have. Now we're going to sew around all of these beads so that we can secure them. So I'm coming out of this 8/0, I'm going to go into the pearl and the 11/0, and then I will go into the next pearl and 8/0, and then I'm going to go into this pearl and this 11/0 right here. Now I am right where the working thread and the tail thread meet, so I'm just going to tie them in a knot just to secure the entire unit here. And I'll just tie twice. I'm just doing an overhand knot, making sure that my knot goes down between my beads. And then I am just going to sew away from this. So I'm coming out between the pearl and the 11/0 right here. I'm going to sew down to the pearl and the 8/0. So I'm just going to go through the pearl and to this 8/0 seed bead right here and exit. Then I am going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead and an 8/0 seed bead onto my needle and grab my clasp. So drop this 11/0 and this 8/0 down to your work like this, and then go through the clasp and bring it down to the 8/0 and the 11/0 on your little unit here. Just like that. Then we are going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, or actually we're going to go through the 8/0 right here. Just pick up your piece. Now I know my fingers are going to cover it, but you have to hold on to it. So pick up the piece, hold on to the piece and the 11/0 and the 8/0 just like this, and pull, feeling the thread slide between your fingers and guide that clasp down to the 8/0 seed bead. Now we're coming out, we went through on this side of this 8/0 we're attached to. We're going to pick up an 11/0 and go in the opposite side. So we're going to go into this side right here. And pull the thread through. Now you see how things jumble up when I don't hold on to it? That's why I always put my thumb over it. I show you exactly where I'm going, but then I put my thumb over it and hold it between my finger and my thumb. I can feel it slide into place, guide it, and get nice tension that way. That's why I hold it like that. Then we're going to sew through this entire thing again. So we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to go up into the 11/0 right here. Let me rearrange here. And then up into the 8/0 and then into the clasp, just like this. Then I'm going to put my thumb over the top and just gently pull my thread through. Give it a little tug, and that's what that looks like. Then we're going to go into, we're coming out of the clasping, we're going to go into the 8/0. And you can't put your 8/0 down, you can't pull really tight yet because your clasp will block your 8/0. So go into your 8/0, loosen it up a little if you need to. Go into the 8/0 and the 11/0 on the other side. Put your thumb and your finger together. Pull your thread, guiding your thread. And that's what you should have. Go back into this 8/0 here. Now, I want you to do that one more time, and we'll be back. So sew up through the clasping exactly like we just did, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is what your piece should look like now. You've secured it, and you're coming out of the 8/0 seed bead you're attaching to. And we have our little tail thread right here. I'm going to cut that off. Just to get it out of the way. Now we're going to put an embellishment on the top of this, and then we'll move into our second unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick up an 11-0 and then one of your long Bicone crystals and an 11-0. Just like this. And we're going to go, we're coming out of this side of the 8-0 here. We're going to go directly into the same side on the opposite bead. So right into this bead right here. I'm going to pick it up and hold on to it and just pull my needle through. Now, I'm just going to lift that bead on top of my unit. Just like this. Now I'm going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. I'm coming out of this side of the 8-0. I'm going to go into the crystal again. I'm going to hold on to the crystal just like this. Pull my thread through and tug a little bit and get nice tension on that. Now we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead and we're going to go into the 8-0 on the opposite side right here. So right straight across, that's all you're doing. Now I'm going to put my thumb over it so I can get a little tension, just like that. Pull it down so it's nice and tight. And then we're going to sew through these beads on this side. So we're coming out of the 8-0 in the original unit that we attached our clasping to. Now we're going to go into this pearl on this side. I'm just going to turn it over so you can see. And then we're going to go into the 11-0. Pull your thread through. Then we're going to go into this pearl and this 8-0 right here, the very bottom one. And I'll turn it over so you can see exactly where I'm at. Now, once we get in there, give it a nice little tug. Make sure your embellishment looks good, because at this point, if it's not tight, you won't be able to regain it. So go ahead and pull on it, center it, make sure it looks good, and then we're going to start our next unit. So what we're going to do, excuse me, is we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we are going to pick up one of our Bicone crystals. Then we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up a pearl, or whatever 4mm round you're using. If you're using the box, pick up your frosted 4mm round, and then a 11-0, and then a crystal. And one more 11-0. So this is what you should have on your needle, just like this. 11-0, Bicone, 11-0. Yeah, that's right. 11-0, sorry, I had to think about that for a second. 11-0, Bicone, 11-0, pearl, or 4mm round, whatever. 11-0, Bicone, 11-0. Let's bring this down. Now you're coming out of this side of the 8-0. We're going to go into the opposite side of the 8-0. And pull these up, and they're going to make kind of a funny little shape here. We're going to sew back through it to make sure that we have it secure. So I'm coming out of this 8-0. I'm going to go into this 11-0 here. Pull my thread through. I'm holding on to it just so I can guide everything. And then I'm going to go through the 11-0, the pearl, and the 11 on the other side if I can get it. If not, I'll just get it on my next run through here. So now I just need to go up through this 11-0 and the crystal, and then come through this 8-0 here. So all I've done is sew around the entire unit. I've got it upside down right now, so that's why it switched directions. So now I'm just going to turn it back over, just like this. So once you put those on, just sew back through them. Once you get to the 8-0 seed bead, then you're going to pick up an 11-0 and a Bicone crystal and an 11-0, and you're going to go in a diagonal across and go into this pearl. So you're coming out of this 8-0, we're going to go into the opposite side of the pearl. So we're just going to, or the 4mm round, whatever you're using, go into that on this side, just like this. I'm going to hold on to it, pull my thread, guide this on top of my unit, push it into place, put my thumb over it, and give it a little tug, just like that. Now we're going to sew through this side and back through, just to make sure that this unit is secure and this embellishment is not going to go anywhere. So we're coming out of this pearl here, we're just going to go up the 11-0, the Bicone crystal on this side, and the 11-0, just like this. Pull, give it a little tug, go into the original 8-0 that you attached to. So this is why I turn it over, just so you can see where I'm at, right on that 8-0 that you've attached this unit to. And then sew down this 11-0 on this side, the crystal, go into the 11-0 and the pearl, and now we are ready to make our next unit. And that's what that looks like so far. So now we're going to make another unit. It's going to be a little bit different on this side. The middle will always have the 4mm pearl or round, whatever you're using, and this side, once you finished your first unit, there'll be double units. This side will have an 8-0. So let me show you what I mean. We're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead. We're going to pick up a Bicone crystal. We're going to pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0. And then a Bicone crystal and an 11-0. And we're going to drop these down. I'll show you what I have. So I have an 11-0, Bicone, 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, Bicone, 11-0. Just like that. And now I'm going to go into the opposite side of the pearl I'm coming out of. So right into this one, right here. Excuse me. And I'm going to pull this tight. And I'm going to sew through the entire thing to make sure that it's nice and secure. So we're going to go ahead and go up through this crystal. Go through these 3 seed beads. Excuse me, my voice is being weird today. Down into this crystal and into the 11-0 behind it, just like that. And then into the pearl. Just like this. I'm going to pull through. I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and one of my Bicone crystals and an 11-0. I'm coming out of this side of the pearl. I'm going to go down to this side, the opposite side of the 8-0 seed bead, and go through it. This is what I have on my needle. Now I'm going to just bring my thread over the top, go into this side of the 8-0, right here. Now, once you get it in the 8-0, you have to hold on to it. I have had a couple of comments that I hold on to my work and they can't see it. I try to make sure that I show you the stitch and then hold on to it. But it's also a very good tip to show you how to hold on to it and make sure you get proper tension and nice, neat stitches. And it's just important. And I apologize if you can't see it, but I really try to make sure you can. Now we're coming out of this side of the 8-0 here. And we are going to make our next unit. So at this point now, it's just we're just going to copy this entire unit we just made. So we'll start with this half with the pearl, and then we'll do this half with the 8-0, and we'll just continue that. So now we're going to pick up an 11-0 seed bead, a Bicone crystal, an 11-0 seed bead, and a pearl. So you know once you've made your 8-0 unit, your next unit will be with your 4mm round. And then pick up an 11-0, and then pick up a Bicone crystal and an 11-0. And let me show you what I have, just like that. Now we're coming out of this side of the 8-0. We're going to go into this side, just like that. I'm going to hold on to it, and I'm going to pull my thread and guide everything so it comes together as neatly as possible. Then I'm just going to turn my piece a little and sew back through all of these beads. So we'll go into, coming out of the 8-0, we'll go into the 11-0, the crystal, the 11-0 behind the crystal, right here. Hold on to it, pull your thread through. Go through the pearl and the 11-0 on this side. Put your thumb and finger together and pull your thread through. This also ensures that you don't pull your unit all weird. And then we're going to go down into the Bicone crystal and the 11-0 behind it. We can get them both. If not, you can always take them separately, just like that. Pull it through. That's what you've got. Coming out of this 11-0, we're going to go into the 8-0. And just the 8-0. Avoid the 11-0 on the other side. Now we're going to put our embellishment on top of this unit. So we're going to pick up an 11-0, a Bicone crystal, and an 11-0. Now we're going to go over the top in a diagonal. So we're coming out of this side of the 8-0, we're going to go into the opposite side of the pearl. So I just like to bring my thread over the top and then go into this side here, just like this. Pull it down very gently and slowly. Push that crystal over the top, and then put my thumb and finger together and give it a little tug, just like that. Now we're going to sew around this unit again just to make sure that everything stays in place. So we're coming out of the pearl, we're going to go into this 11-0 right here, and the crystal and the 11-0 behind it, just like that. Then up into the 8-0, I'm going to turn my piece and come through the beads on this side. So I will go through the 11-0, the Bicone crystal, and the 11-0 on this side. Pull down, holding on to it, give it a tug, make sure that it's nice and tight. This is the last chance you have to make sure that this crystal is laying correctly on top. And then you're going to go into this 4mm round bead. Now we're going to make the other half. So once we come through the 4mm round we're using, then we know that our next unit is made exactly the same way, except for we pick up an 11-0, an 8-0, and an 11-0 instead of an 11-0, pearl, or 4mm round and 11-0. So we start with an 11-0. We pick up a Bicone crystal. We pick up an 11-0 and an 8-0 and an 11-0. And I will show you. I know you can't see me. And a Bicone crystal and an 11-0. This is now what I have on my needle here. So I have 11-0 Bicone, and then I have the combination of 11-0, 8-0, 11-0, Bicone, and 11-0, just like that. Now I go into the opposite side of the pearl or 4mm round that I'm coming out of, right here. Just go into this side. And I will pull my thread through. Straighten up my unit a little bit and sew back through it. So I'm going to sew back through all of these beads right here. Do this one, hold on to it, pull it. Go through these three, hold on to it, pull your thread through, down through these two. So the bicone and the 11-0 into the 4mm round bead, pull, and then we're going to pick up an 11-0, bicone crystal, and 11-0, and this time we come from this side of the pearl and go into the opposite side of the 8-0. So go this way and into the 8-0 seed bead right here. Come here, you. Right there. Pull through, guide it over the top of the unit, position it so it's nice and neat, and then sew back through the unit to stabilize the crystal embellishment. So we're coming out of the 8-0, we go into the 11-0 behind it, and then down into this 8-0 and the 11-0 behind it, right here. Go into the 4mm round bead, now I'm just going to turn it over just because it's easier for me to get my hand to it, and then I'm just going to go up through this side. So I have to go through this 11-0 here, and it's at a funny angle, so I just have to navigate through it there. Go through that one and the crystal, and then I'm just going to go through the 11-0 and the 8-0 because the 8-0 is where I will begin my next unit. Turn this over, make sure that my unit looks nice and neat, and that's what I have so far, and you can see how pretty that's turning out. Now we'll continue these stitches exactly as I've shown you. We're going to, of course, because we're coming out of the 8-0, this one will pick up our combination of 11-0s and bicones with the pearl in the middle, and then of course after you've finished that one, the next one will be with the 8-0 combination at the end, and you'll just alternate between the two units. Every unit, I want to say that every unit we make is of 2, so we're not going to count this first one. So it's 2 here, 2 here. So a unit will have your pearl in the middle, okay? So make each unit exactly the same until you have 6 full units, not counting the stabilization unit that we started with here with the 4 pearls on the bottom. And the way I am counting that is I'm just counting the pearls in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to make right around a 7-inch bracelet. However, I did this one too, and you can see that the beads are much bigger and the length is longer. Even though I have the same amount of units, the length is longer in this one. And this one fits me pretty good because of the bulk on the wrist. I wanted it a little longer, and it's exactly 8 inches from tip of the clasp to the tip of the jump ring here. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit extra on the end here. These beads, that's the thing with Chinese crystal, is these beads are daintier than these beads, even though they're supposedly the same measurement. You can get them off by a 0.5 millimeter or whatever, and it seems like it's not that much, but it makes a big difference in your piece. Plus, I think these 4mm round frosted beads are bigger than my 4mm round pearls. So we're just going to go with 6 units if you want to round a 7-inch bracelet. If you're using these smaller ones, if you get them off my website, or if it just looks like it's not going to be quite as big as these ones, then you can just add a little bit of extra length on the end. If you want a longer or shorter bracelet, of course you can always add or subtract units. I know that if I add a whole nother unit here, I have to put 2 halves together, and it's going to be way too long for me then. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end this, make as many units as you think you will need, and then either 6, 7, or 8, it's up to you depending upon the size of your wrist. I've made 6. I'm coming out of this 8-0 seed bead in the middle here after securing the entire unit. And I am going to now pick up my beads to make my stabilize unit. So I'm going to pick up an 8/0, or excuse me, a 4mm round pearl, an 11/0, and then a 4mm round pearl, and an 8/0, a 4mm round pearl. Jeez, come here, pearl. And an 11/0, and a 4mm round pearl. And I'll show you what I have here. So this is what I have. Pearl, 11/0, pearl, 8/0, pearl, 11/0, pearl. Just like that. Then we're going to take these down to the piece, and we're going to go into the opposite side of the 8/0. So we're coming out of this side, we're going to go into this side right here. And we're going to pull these down, just like that. And then we're going to sew around them and secure them. So just go into each bead, and hold on to them. And just sew all the way around till you get back to your 8/0. Just like that. Now that that's secure, you're going to pick up an 11/0 and one of your bicones and an 11/0, like this. And we're going to go into the opposite side of the opposite bead. So we're coming out of this 8/0 on this side. Here's the opposite 8/0. We're going to go into the opposite side that we're coming out of here. So we're going to go into this side. And we're just going to pull it down. Or actually, you don't have to go into the opposite on this one, but that's okay. Then we're going to pick up an 11/0 seed bead, and we're going to go back down into the crystal, just like this. Hold on to that crystal and pull your thread through, and then pick up an 11/0 seed bead and go into the opposite side of the 8/0 that you are attaching this whole unit to. Just like that. Make sure your embellishment is nice and tight, and then sew up into the pearl, because you're coming out of the 8/0 that you're attaching the unit to, and then you're just going to sew up the pearl, the 11/0, the pearl, and then into the 8/0 at the very end here. Okay, so on this one, I just picked up an 11/0 and an 8/0 and put on my clasping just like I did last time. But to give myself a little bit more length on this side, I'm going to pick up two 11/0s. So you can do your clasping exactly the same way you did it here, or you can modify it a little bit on this end like I am, just to give myself just a little bit more room. So I'm picking up two 11/0s. I'm going to pick up an 8/0, and then I'm going to get my jump ring. So I have my closed jump ring right here, and I'm going to go through it. I'm going to drop my two 11/0s and my 8/0 down, just suspend the 8/0 or the jump ring above the 8/0 there, just like that. Let's get you a little closer. Let me get centered. And then we're just going to go back into just the 8/0 seed bead. So I'm going through my clasping. I'm going to pick up my piece, put my thumb and finger over my 11/0s and 8/0, and guide the thread down until I pull that jump ring down to the 8/0. Don't pull it down extremely tightly because you need to get through that 8/0 again. Then pick up two 11/0 seed beads and go into the 8/0 here on the opposite side from which you started attaching the clasping. This is what you should have. Now we're just going to sew back through this a couple of times. So I'm just going to turn it, go up these two 11/0s and the 8/0 and through my clasp, just like this. pull it through by holding on to it and guiding my thread. Go back down into the 8/0 and the 11/0s on this side. Hold on to it, pull my thread through. And then I'm going to go into this 8/0 again. I will do that one more time, or you can do it twice. You can do it as many times as you feel like you need to secure it, and then we'll be back. Okay, so I'm coming out of the 8/0 now after securing my entire piece, and I'm just going to turn my piece over now. And I'm going to go into the purl right next to where my thread is coming out of this 8/0, and then I'm going to go into that purl and into the 11/0 next to it, and then into the next purl and the next 8/0. And then right here, between this 8/0 and this 11/0, I'm just going to kind of stick my needle up through this unit, just like this. And I'm going to pull my thread slowly and gently until I create a loop here. And then I'm going to go through the loop. And then I'm going to guide this knot down between the beads, just like that. And then I'm going to go down into this 11/0 and this crystal. And I'm just going to sew through my piece a little bit and go into this 11/0 and the purl. Again, right here, I can just go through that unit very slowly, pull my thread, create a loop, and then as I do this, I will make sure I guide it between the beads and pull my knot down. And then also a little bit further away from that knot. Now you can move down your piece, doing this as much as you want, knotting and sewing through and knotting and sewing through, as much as you feel like you need to. I'm just going to go through this 8/0 here. And then, oh, I hope I was in frame. And then I am going to go ahead and cut off my thread. So basically, just sew through your piece following the original thread path. Don't divert and have your thread over any of your beads. Just follow the path you took originally, and then you can cut this down. And then I'm just going to burn this down a little bit. Just get the flame close to the thread and just let that roll in there. Now, I got a tiny bit of length from this, but not quite enough. So let me show you. I don't need an 8-inch bracelet, but it seemed like it worked pretty well with this one. And my clasping on this one is bigger than the clasping on this one. It's a little bit bigger. So it's a little bit shorter, and it's actually going to fit my wrist okay, but it might not fit somebody else's. And if I want to make it more universal, I'm going to open a couple of little jump rings and then put on another big jump ring. And I want it balanced, so I'm going to use 2 jump rings. So let me show you what I mean. Let me grab what I need and we'll extend. Okay, so I've got these small, about 3mm jump rings. Now, they may be too small because these are pretty thick closed jump rings, but I'm going to try and see if it works. So all I'm going to do is pick up one of them and situate it in my pliers here so I can open it well. And then I'm going to just twist it open. Just like that. And then I'm going to grab this one and this one and drop it on the jump ring. Boy, I cannot talk today. I don't know what's up with that. And then I'm just going to grab this little jump ring and close it. Just by twisting it back and throwing it across the room and all that good stuff. And I'm just going to look at it, make sure I actually got it shut. And just close it a little tighter by jiggling it around a little bit. And then when I'm using big jump rings like this, I like to use 2 small ones to join them together because it balances it a little bit nicer. So I'm going to grab another small jump ring. I'm going to open it open it pretty wide because these are big jump rings. I'm going to hook it over both of these here, which is proving to be a little bit more tricky than I thought it would. There we go. Get a hold of it and close it. And just be patient, just keep working it. These jump rings are really big, and the ones that I'm hooking them together with are really small. So I'm just going to work it until I get it closed. There we go. And I think it just looks nicer and it's more balanced to have that. Let me get you close so you can see it. And that's what that looks like. And now, if I wanted to, I could dangle something pretty on the end. Maybe I'll put a head pin on something and dangle it. But now you can see that I've given myself a little bit more room. I could put another one on there too if I wanted to. Especially if you have someone that has a bigger wrist and they like it and they want to buy it, you can always modify it that way. But now I've gotten myself a little bit more room. And this should be perfect for me because this one was a little bit long. This should be just about right. And like I said, if I wanted to, okay, jump ring, stop it. If I wanted to, I could put another jump ring on here and make it even longer. So this one, these are the beads that are in the box. You shouldn't have any issues with the length. Do the 6, you'll have right at an 8-inch. If you have a very small wrist, just leave off one entire unit and you should have just about right for your wrist. So if you have a bigger wrist, of course, make another unit, or you can make 2 of these stabilizing units. They're a little bit smaller than the full unit, or you can add some more jump rings. It's just several ways to modify to get the length that you want. And these turn out really pretty. I'm going to have someone put them on my wrist because my right wrist is burnt. I burned it pretty badly the other night making dinner. I had something frozen in the microwave and I took it out and the liquid of it spilled on my wrist, but of course the thing inside was still frozen in the middle. Makes no sense. Burned the crap out of me even though it was frozen. It doesn't make no sense to me. But anyway, that doesn't matter. I'm going to go have someone put these on me on my left wrist so you don't have to, or on my right wrist, and I will be right back. Okay, and this is what they look like on, and they're really nice to wear. Make sure you don't twist them when you put them on the wrist, and they should stay pretty nice because they're flat on the bottom and bulkier on top, so that they should stay just fine. Of course, if you roll something on them or something, they may turn, but other than that, they should stay pretty nicely. And they look really pretty on. And like I said, this one's got a bigger presence than this one, but I really like how elegant this one looks with the pearls too. So they're really nice. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Stay tuned. We'll do some stringing and clasping things with the rest of the stuff in the box. Anyway, that's it. Bye-bye.